Sweet, mate.
What's going on, guys? Me and Trevor, Two Bears Podcast. Let's fucking go.
Love that shit, George. Love that shit. I love the upbeat nature of what you're saying. It's a very loud truck outside, which is slightly irritating, but
Typical time, yeah.
typical time. And here we are on the Two Bears Podcast. This is my friend George Barnard from GBSM. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
So basically, cheers for the introduction, mate. I have started my own media company where I'm doing photography, podcasts, and YouTube videos, all around football. And yeah, we'll see what we go up to.
You've done a few cool things. You did Frankfurt away, didn't you, with West Ham?
Frankfurt away was, take the result aside, it was the best experience football-wise I've ever had. Like, you were there as well. The atmosphere was incredible.
Let's go into that a little bit. Why was it? Why would you think that it was the best you've ever had? Because you've done a lot. I mean, we'll come to that as well. But yeah, go on.
I mean, you can see it on my YouTube channel, George Barnard Sports and Media, little plug.
Like that.
You can see it on there when the teams come out. There was a big like fireworks tifo. The atmosphere was incredible and it was so loud.
I've never. Yeah, to be fair, I've never been in a football stadium like it. It was relentless, and like I think in English football you get periods of top quality atmosphere for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes max, but it was just the whole game.
Yeah, it was, and this is what's really annoyed me about the recent ruling of you can't have flares in the football stadiums. Alright, flares are annoying, they stink and whatever, but for an atmosphere there's nothing like them.
That's true. It does seem that our ground, away fans always seem to get them in. But we never seem to be able to do it. Tottenham had one last season. Don't know if you remember. Palace, I think, brought one.
Yeah.
Threw onto the pitch. Threw onto our nice carpet. Yeah.
Everton did it.
I thought if they damaged the carpet, George, I'm going to be furious.
Well, the less said about that stadium, the better.
Yeah, we'll come on to that. There's a lot of interesting things about George. George is only a little baby, aren't you, George? How old are you?
22, I wouldn't say a baby.
No, you know, in a nice way. When you're as old as me, mate, you seem like a baby.
When I first met you, I thought you were about 30, so...
Yeah, that's probably due to my maturity, would you say?
Yep.
Okay. So me and George hit it off pretty much straight away. I don't know, where did we meet, actually?
We met through Hammers United.
Yeah.
And I'll always remember the first time I contacted you, we were having a debate on Hammers United, and I wanted to pick your brains about something, so I texted you, we were all in a group chat together, and your first reply was, who the fuck is this?
Well, and how did you feel about that? Does it not make you feel good, George?
I thought you knew who it was. So, because I've got everyone from their group chat, I've got their numbers saved as their names.
Yeah.
So I thought everyone was like me, but no.
That's your OCD, isn't it?
Yep.
So apologies, George. Didn't get off clearly on I didn't even know that, but didn't even get off onto the best start. But then we've blossomed since then, haven't we, mate?
Yeah, no, we've been to about 5 games together. Me, you, Skylar, my dad's been to games with us. It's always a good vibe, isn't it?
It's always a good vibe, and I think the most important thing about what we want to talk about today is essentially you have travelled through the whole of the country, really, following West Ham United, following Luton, home and away, and what people won't know about you is that you have cerebral palsy and are obviously you're wheelchair bound. But one of the things that I think I always noticed, well, I didn't even notice, was that I didn't notice. Do you know what I mean? And that's the thing. Like for me, your attitude and spirit towards just kind of not caring and getting on with it is something to be very proud of, mate. You know?
Nah, thank you very much, mate. That means a lot. And I don't let it get you down. I try and do what I can to get around it. And like you mentioned there, I mean, I follow West Ham. And by the way, it's Luton Town, not Luton. That's the full name.
Sorry, mate.
But no one ever calls it Luton Town, so I got to pull you off on that.
Okay, mate.
But no, I follow Luton and West Ham home and away. I went to 90 games last season. I went to England games. I went all over Europe with West Ham. I go to everywhere, don't I?
You do go everywhere.
But there's no point in letting anything like that beat you. Unfortunately, my disability isn't going to go away. In fact, it's going to get worse as my life goes on. So you can either cry about it or get on with it. And
you are very much getting on with it, sort of thing, which is impressive. And I mean, no more so than the time we went to Newcastle away last last August, wasn't it?
This time, like if it was this date last year, it was this weekend coming up last year.
First season, wasn't it? First game of the season, sorry, yeah. And we went, I'd never been to Newcastle before, and you really are up in the gods, aren't you? It's a pain in the arse a little bit, to be honest.
Yep.
Get up there, had a few beers, and then the rest is history, George, isn't it? We can't go into too much detail because it all got a little bit fruity, didn't it, George? But
hang on. Hang on, let's clear that up. I'm not
saying nothing. I'm just keeping quiet.
No, it was a good night. That's what I was saying. It was a good night all round. He went to bed about 10 o'clock because he's a pussy.
Yeah, and I had to drive home the next day. But we had been drinking all day, to be fair. And not only that, we got given loads of free. What was the most amazing thing about that city? And fair play to Newcastle. Like I drove up there. I actually split it, didn't I? I think, and I went halfway up, stayed overnight because I was finishing writing a book, and then I carried on the rest of the distance. I halved it. It was still miles. Got into Newcastle, had a hotel right by the station, which was awesome. And all I could hear was West Ham fans singing. It was like the first game. It's August. It was hot. Like,
because it was by the station, so like, the majority of the fans, because it's the first game of the season, you're gonna go up on the trains. You're gonna be absolutely steaming. There's gonna be a pub right by the station.
Yeah. It was magical for me. I loved that bit, and then met George, and then we went. We felt like, even though it was Sunday,
it felt like a Saturday.
It did, yeah. Newcastle got a little bit bad. I think it was 4-2, wasn't it?
4-2, but honestly, the nightlife there is incredible.
Yeah.
It was Sunday night. Everything's a little bit quieter on a Sunday because everyone's got work the next day. But it was unreal.
Yeah, not in Newcastle, mate. The girls were all how should we put this? Dressed
to impress.
Yes, well said. And yeah, we were obviously football fans, boys on tour. It was very good fun.
And we got free drinks.
And it was great. And ever since then, yeah, we've kind of made a bit of an effort to sort of meet up, and we've always kind of done things together, football-wise and so on. But I think, the main purpose of my podcast, I mean, there isn't really. I just talk to people and have fun. But ultimately, it's in the essence of sort of well-being. And I think, I want to talk to you a little bit about the fact that you have cerebral palsy, and obviously this can't be easy. And I think I've been on trains, I've been on away days with you, and it is difficult, isn't it? I mean, it is difficult.
Yeah,
do you want to? I mean, it's up to you, man. Where do you want to start with this?
I mean, you mentioned it there about the trains. I can't drive, unfortunately. One, because of my reactions, and two, because of my eyesight. I'm basically blind, and so I have to get a train pretty much everywhere. And we went to, was it Manchester United away?
Yeah.
We went to Toby?
Yeah.
And for those of you that don't know, the trains from Euston, they're weirdly shaped. So you go in and you go into the carriage where the disabled seat was, but it was shaped in such a way that we could barely get the scooter around. And you and Toby both said we didn't realise how hard it is until we've come with you, and that's a common theme that I get is all my mates saying after they've been to a game with me or for a day out, they'll say we don't realise how hard it is. And I think that's something that needs to be highlighted a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, because this is not, and I sometimes feel like it's kind of split between two different types of people. Most people, I think, want to help and be nice. I mean, and you obviously have more experience with this than me. I don't know whether that's entirely true.
Most of them, but there are some knobheads around. I'll give you an example. I went to England. They played Hungary, lost 4-0. It was a great day. And I got told, and I quote, "You're holding the train up. You need to move."
Lovely.
So then I said back, "It's not my fault the trains aren't fit for someone in a mobility scooter. Now, my mobility scooter fits in the parameters of the measurements that are needed for a train, so there's no arguments there." And he goes, "Well, these trains are 20 years old." I said, "Hang on, the Disability Discrimination Act came in 1990 something.
So yeah, so you're willing date. Yeah.
So it's just like, what?
Yeah.
You've literally ended your own argument there.
So was that a train operator?
That was a platform staff. The train operators are brilliant. They apologised for the way I was spoken to, and they were really, really helpful when I got off my changeover. But it was that one person just thinking, do you really think I want to be like this? Do you really think I want to be holding the train up? Do you really think I want to be in a mobility scooter? Nah, mate. Unfortunately, life is shit at times.
it's heavily insensitive and quite unbelievable, really. And I feel I you know, because to me, like I say, I don't see you. I see you as George, mate, and I don't, you know, I don't worry about the rest of it. But I've noticed a few times that you know, I'm not going to dwell on the negatives. I'm not going to dwell on the negatives all day, mate. We are going to get some positive shit. But I do think
the negative needs to be said, yeah.
Yeah. Well, like, okay, so let's talk about. So obviously, the Euston thing happened, and it was like, you know, reading about reversing, because it was, you know, like the space wasn't good enough.
Even
basically.
before that, because we were late getting to the station, because we had to go from Basingstoke, which is where my friend lives, and we were going to get off at Euston Station on the Underground, but because it's not wheelchair friendly, we had to go to King's Cross and then walk, which then means we missed our train.
Nightmare. And then we go to Man United, right? And actually, there's elements of good and bad in this story. So we get to Man United, and like, I've not been to Old Trafford. I've been to Old Trafford. I've been to a match at Old Trafford before. So we get there, and then this really nice old man sort of like calls us into this sort of private, secluded area. We go up to a lift. It's quite posh for a football ground.
Yeah.
Go upstairs, right, and then it's like this whole sort of separate area for, like, you know, accessibility and so on. And it's great. And we're thinking, oh, this is unreal. We've got a beautiful view. We've got all the away fans below us. This is unreal. Right, I'll go to the bar. What do you fancy? Oh, sorry, sir, you can't have any alcohol. Do you remember that?
Yep, and I genuinely, like, you know what, I went off my nut.
Yeah.
I said, that is genuine social segregation. Like, I like rum and coke. I'm not really a big beer drinker, but it's the principle of it.
Yeah.
If someone's having a beer, I will join them in having a beer. Like, and to have that taken away from me purely because I can't walk is disgraceful. Man United's probably, the third biggest club in the world behind Barcelona and Real Madrid.
Yeah.
And even Barcelona, I went there, and the disabled view there was a joke. She was like, it's not just the small clubs this affects.
Yeah.
It's the big clubs like Man United and Barcelona.
That's an unbelievable thing as well. Like, how can the view for disabled people change to such a massive extent? There should be like a kind of law that sort of says, right, actually, people who you know, are disabled should actually be allowed to view the game. Do you know what I mean? And in some cases, that's not the case necessarily, isn't it?
I mean, you've been to Goodison
Palace?
Park? Yeah, but don't start me on Palace.
Palace. I mean,
it's tiny.
Like,
but have you been to? You've been to Goodison Park.
Yeah.
So one of my best friends is a massive Everton fan, home and away. So we always go together. And he said it's quite an old ground. So the first time I went, he goes, "You need to be careful of this, and this." And I was like, "Yeah, sound." So I avoided all of them. But then about a half time, I went to the toilet, and I said, "Where's your disabled toilet, please, mate?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'll take you." So he took us to the toilet, opened the door for us. But this toilet, and I kid you not, it was the size of a broom cupboard. It was,
really?
I can get my chair in it, and it's a squeeze. Like, you've seen the size of my scooter.
Yeah, he's big. But even so, like that.
I have to leave it outside.
You do, yeah. Sometimes. I mean, the away in Goodison Park, the away like players were in a cubicle. They were all getting changed outside there. I don't know if that's a normal thing at Goodison, but it was.
No, it's because it was COVID.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. I mean, anyway, get back to Man U, because that story's mental. So we kicked off a little bit. So because you're disabled, you're not allowed to drink. That's essentially the message this seemed to be sending, which was a bit odd. So then we kind of kicked up enough fuss. So me and Toby went downstairs, had a beer, but then we were bringing. Are we allowed to say this? Can we get in trouble? Probably not.
I don't care. Even if I do, I'll just pull them out for it.
Well, I can't prove it now, can I? But basically, we I suppose I can prove it if we say it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
there is that.
Fuck it. Yeah. So basically, we were just getting beers and bringing them back underneath our jackets, and you were going into the toilet for 10 minutes and smashing.
Me and Toby, he bought me one at half time and one before the game. And I did them in 2 minutes? And,
yeah.
And they were full litre bottles, weren't they? They weren't pints.
Yeah, they were massive, and it was so you ended up having a drink. So we sort of improvised, didn't we? But it wasn't an ideal circumstance. And then the game was I thought West Ham played pretty well, if I remember. But then right at the end,
they scored.
Yeah, so Jared Bowen just literally didn't. It's a bit like that Antonio.
Jared Bowen missed a slide tackle.
Yeah, and they literally broke, and they broke up the field from where we were. And as we were watching it, and George is a knowledgeable football man, and you just knew. You knew.
And
it was
I was
going
just like, yeah, watch the far post, watch the far post. Shit.
And then the atmosphere. I mean, to be fair, I think anyone who hasn't gone to Old Trafford needs to do it because there's a ground that is incredibly.
There's a ground, but their fans are. Can I swear?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
their fans are wankers.
Yeah.
Because half of them come from London.
Yeah.
And then when we come out of the ground, I said, go on, piss off back to London. And then one of the Man United fans, you were there.
I was getting to this. Go on, yeah, go on.
Turned around and said to me, yeah, at least I can walk there, mate.
I know.
It was a West Ham fan.
Fuming, yeah. I mean, but this highlights the issues that you suffer. And then I'm cross, Toby's cross. We've just lost 1-0 in the 93rd minute. Man United fans everywhere. We're heading back to London with, and we've all got the ump. And we're going to get pushed on a tram.
I chased him in my school, didn't I?
I remember, yeah, you were fuming. And this is a sort of thing that daily, and that's why, like, I love to sort of talk to you and have you about, because you have a spirit where it's very easy in any, like we've talked about something which we can't obviously go into, but something recently with a friend of mine, where people can very easily go, oh, it's too much, I can't do it. It's actually, what is too much? Like, you have to keep going, don't you?
Yeah, unfortunately, life is a bitch at times.
Yeah. And everything's overwhelming.
I mean, I suffer with depression and anxiety. I've had it for the last 3 years or so. It's been clinically diagnosed. And there was a point when my first year at uni, I was really struggling with living by myself, with doing the uni work. I was going to games, that was my release. And then, but I was still going to a stupid amount of games. I was still going to my lectures. I was still cooking. I was just thinking that cooking, this is what a lot of people don't realise. For someone like you or your wife or kids or whatever, when they're older, it's not, I wouldn't say easy, because cooking's never easy, but it took me 45 minutes to cut an onion once because my hands are pretty much useless. So it's stuff like that. It's like, just because you're disabled doesn't give you a excuse not to do anything.
Absolutely.
So you kind of need to just push through it at times. Life is shit, and there are going to be things going on in your life, and just get on with it.
You've got to, haven't you? You've got to get on with it, and I think you are testament to one of the people. What I love about you, George, is although we're sort of separated by many, many years, which I don't like to think about.
Yeah, but we're not, because I've got older brothers and they're about as mature as you. So
yeah,
we're sweet.
So we're sweet. I know we're sweet. I know that. But what I'm saying is, like, the reason I think why we get on is because there's a similar kind of spirit in a sense. There's not reasons why we get on, but one of them is that we have a similar spirit in that, like, let's just get on with it. And like you say, you might, I might drop down dead tomorrow, you might drop down dead tomorrow, but we're going to have a good go at life before that, aren't we? You know what I mean? And sort of get involved and do things. And I think that is a very, very positive way to be. And I think, you've developed like a massive sort of friendship group. We met some very lovely friends of yours in Newcastle and all around England, actually, haven't we?
I mean, you met a lot of my mates at the Luton game last week.
Yeah.
And that's what they always say. They said, we don't see you as the guy in the chair.
No, absolutely.
I said, and that's how you can tell they're good. They're your close friends. Because, alright, I might say, that player is as useless as my legs or whatever. That's one of my favourite sayings. Because it's just a piss take.
It is,
but you and Toby and Ben and Tom and whatever, they wouldn't ever bring my legs into an argument. And that's how I know, whatever happens, without disagreements, like me and my mates from Luton, they're big Wales fans, and we rip the piss out of each other because I go in and they go to Wales. But there's never any bad feeling. It's all a banter way, and that's what a lot of it's missing now, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all taken too seriously, and you can't say that, and you can say that around the right people. You can say that.
Of course you can, and I think that's where you know who your true friends are and stuff. Changing tack slightly, mate. We've just had the Lionesses win the European competition. Now you texted in to my last podcast with some very insightful points about the FA and the improvements at St George's and all that sort of stuff. What do you reckon? I mean, because we just found out that there's probably not going to be much legacy stuff going on. The Department for Education have said girls aren't going to have equal football and equal sports and stuff. And essentially, it's great that they've won, but there's not much else going to happen. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? What your thoughts are?
It's so frustrating because, first of all, congratulations to the Lionesses. Like, I never really watched women's football before this Euros. I'm not going to deny that. And but it's great as someone that's part of a, what do they call it, a minority.
Yeah.
And whatever the stigma between women's football is, they've still gone out and done it. They've won the European Championships. But what I can't stand, and you alluded to it when you picked me up in the car earlier, is the gender battles of, oh, the women done it before the men. I said, well, hang on a second. The women's game, and that's not nothing to do with it's not their fault, but it is probably 10, 20, 30 years behind the men's game in the evolution. So you can't really compare the two. But what it did highlight is, I'll give you an example, the cerebral palsy England team.
Yeah.
One of my tutors, at university, got asked to be the England manager.
That's awesome.
And he said, what are the terms? And he goes, it's a voluntary role.
Really? That's insane.
That's for the England team, cerebral palsy.
Bad.
What, you're telling me they can't afford 40 grand a year? So right, it's for you.
You know what I mean?
And he goes, right, you've got to pay your own petrol, you've got to scout players all over the country. And trust me when I say I've done a lot of disability stuff in sport when I was younger, it ain't easy to go and find these players because there isn't a lot to do.
No, I mean, that's mad, isn't it? Like this just shows the disparity between the billion-dollar industry that the Premier League is and, like you say, minority sports. And I imagine, what were you saying to me about Luton women earlier?
Luton women, they play on a Sunday park pitch. So I've coached under 4. How was my brother now? He's gone to you. Yeah, so we're under 14s team. And they play on the same pitch. And all it is a Sunday league pitch with a little brick building there's a little hut for hot chocolate or whatever, and there's another tiny brick building, and you've got to come in your kit.
It's insane.
Just thinking, what? This is like Luton don't have a lot of money. They don't. Like I think they got 6th last year, and they have the second lowest budget in the division. But still, come on.
Yeah.
Like, give them even an AstroTurf pitch. Even the Man City women, if you look at their stadium compared to the men's, alright, they're not getting the crowd, so you can understand why it's smaller. But if you look at the site, that was used for the Women's Euros. Really?
Yeah.
You're telling me there isn't a League 1 or 2 club that could have had that stadium and give it a real stadium feel to it?
It's a shambles, really, and it's such a shame that we don't. We're supposed to be a progressive country, and we're not actually supporting.
We're progressive in the mainstream.
Yeah, well, progressive where it makes money.
Exactly.
So that's the thing, isn't it? Like, and they're talking about trying to get more people to go. I mean, what is pleasing is Skylar's talking about going to watch more women's football with her mother.
Which is not Palace, though.
It's not Palace, yeah. She brought up Palace. You're like, what? So that's not happening. But but yeah, I mean, West Ham. I mean, it is. I think I'm so pleased with Lionesses. I just can't understand. And I don't want to go too far just because I talked about it on the last podcast, but essentially this comparison doesn't make sense. We're not going, oh, well, why haven't the cerebral palsy England team won the World Cup because the girls have? But we are saying that about the men's, and I just think that's not the right attitude, is it?
Because unfortunately, and this is what I love about what the women have done, is the men's game has taken, what do they call it, priority.
Yeah.
Over anything. And St George's Park is now open to the women's team as much as it is the men's, and they're now reaping the rewards.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm doing a football coaching degree, and I actually did one of my assessments on St George's Park and Clairefontaine, which was the French version. That's all it is, and it's no coincidence that their men and women's team have been streets ahead of most teams until the last. Probably a couple of years. You think they won the World Cup 2018? Oh,
they're always there. They lost in the final, didn't they? Oh no, they won the final of the Euros.
They won the final. They won the World Cup. Lost in the final of the Euros.
Yeah. And the women, I thought the women were unreal. I thought they were going to batter Germany, but they didn't. They just fell short, didn't they, in that competition? But yeah, they've been absolutely up there. So it is a lot to do with that sort of stuff, isn't it? The facilities and just making it good. But no, it's a positive thing, but I just, sometimes the attitudes in the media really concern me, you know what I mean?
But it's not just the attitudes of one person as well. It's like, I'll give you another example of, you've got the taking the knee at the minute, and that's that's lost a lot of its meanings.
He wants to keep it in next year though, Richard Masters, doesn't he? I've heard that today.
They're in significant games. But it's like, Luton do this thing where they don't do the knee, but they'll stand, and it's called Stand Together Against Discrimination. And that I can get behind more than the knee, because the knee is